Thank you for joining me. In this video, I would like to cover how to solo hike safely. If you're not a subscriber already, thank you for joining. Why don't you hit that subscribe button? And I would like to talk to you about several things that I learned as I was section hiking the Appalachian Trail. When I started talking to my friends about hiking on the Appalachian Trail, one of the first things that most of my friends asked me was, are you going to take a handgun to the trail? And my immediate answer was no. I am not going to take a handgun to the Appalachian Trail. There's a difference when you're on the Appalachian Trail or section hiking or solo hiking between being safe and feeling safe. Some folks have a sense of security, but that sense of security may be misguided or misdirected, while other folks may be safe, but they don't feel safe. So tip number one is this: if you don't feel safe hiking by yourself, though you may have the right preparation, the right equipment, then don't solo hike. Don't allow somebody to talk you into hiking if you personally do not feel safe doing it. What's going to happen is you're not going to rest well, you're going to be on edge, and you're not going to enjoy hiking in some pretty incredible areas if you just don't have an overall feeling of being safe. If you are okay with being safe and understand the preparation that it takes to be solo, then solo hiking is for you. Some basic safety equipment is what I took to the trail, something that you'll see quite a bit. This is just a small can of Mace or bear spray, they call it, predator spray. It's something that I took. I looked at what was available and I chose this particular brand because of a couple features that it had. It would shoot, I think, almost 25-30 feet, and I felt that this particular brand would be something good for me to take to the trail. Another thing that I took to the trail that I thought was a good piece of safety equipment is I took some tape. I know that doesn't sound like a great earth-shaking safety equipment, but I thought with this tape I could repair shoes, I could make a splint for my knee or my leg with some sticks, and also I could use it if I needed to make a makeshift shelter to get out of the weather. You can use tape to put together sticks so you can begin to build the shelter. So a roll of tape is something that always goes in my pack as something for safety. I always take a big, this is a 50-foot roll of nylon cord. There's a lot of things you can do with it. Again, you can make a splint, you can make a shelter, you can tow things, you can put your bear bag up, get your food away from your sleeping area. There's a lot of uses for it, but a roll of nylon cord, very important safety equipment on the trail. When people think of safety for solo hiking, if you're doing any length of hiking, one of the things that's hugely important to me is whether or not I personally have my feet in good operating order. So blister tape is an important part, and it's easy to get an infection on your feet, and that's going to sideline you. If you are 10 or 20 miles from the nearest road or the nearest place to get help and you can't walk, that becomes a safety problem. Another safety item for me is to always carry a lighter and matches. It does not have to be extremely cold outside in order for you to get into danger when it comes to being hypothermic or your body temperature to drop. So one of the things that I always carry with me is I carry some way that I can make fire, a way to make heat. So you can dry things out, so you can warm yourself. There's also a psychological benefit to building a fire. No matter what the weather is, I always carry matches and a lighter. Water purification is a big deal. I learned this lesson the hard way a year ago. When you are solo hiking, you're going to get into trouble if you have a habit of drinking unfiltered or untreated water. I always carry in my pack this kind of water purification tablet. I can drop it in a couple liters of water, and in a short amount of time, I have treated water that I know is safe. You can hike a long time without food, but you always need to have a good source of potable, drinkable water. Another safety tip for myself is I always like to carry anti-diarrheal medicine. That's a big deal. If you get the runs on the trail, it's going to weaken you very quickly, and you may be in such a place where you cannot physically walk to where you can get help. And so I always carry something to stop the runs. When I go on the trail, I always take a small knife. This is what I took on the Appalachian Trail. It's not very big. I paid about, I think, $10 at Walmart for it. It's very lightweight. It's nice and sharp. I can use it to make fire because I can find dry pieces of wood and whittle up some sticks. I can do different things with it. I can use it to cut my tape. I can use it to make makeshift shelter. I can use it to cut my rope. There's just a lot of things you can do when you have a knife, just as a safety precaution. It doesn't weigh very much, clips on your belt. It's a good piece of safety equipment that'll help you to solo hike safe. I can take my tape right here, put together with this knife, and I can put that on the end of a stick, and then I can use it for some other things. You can use it to spear fish, I guess, if you needed to. There just becomes a lot more options of what you can do with this, with the tape together, to help you when you're on the trail. Maybe different safety item that I have is I have a bandana, and it's an actual bandana, but this one was made by our local Department of Natural Resources, and it has a lot of safety information on it. It has what to do to get rescued, different safety tips. It has a lot of just basic rules on it. It's printed on the front and on the back. It has loads of information that I don't have to write down or remember. If I don't have cell phone service, I won't be able to pull it up on my phone, but I have it on this little all-in-one bandana, and it gives me just a little safety blanket of information and knowledge that I can carry with me. It has survival information to help me when I'm traveling out in the woods. It's so important to have a plan when you're on trail. Know where you're going, when you're going to get there, and when you're going to get back. I always leave a note in my vehicle. If I park at a trailhead, I leave a note in my vehicle that says where I'm going, what time I left, and what time I'm expected to be back. I think those are important things when it comes to finding you if you're out in the woods and you're lost. These are little things that will help maybe a search and rescue get a jump start on your direction and your overall location. If they can figure out he left at this time, he can travel about this many miles per hour, they can kind of zero down where you might or might not be, and it just expedites finding you if you get in a bad situation. Another thing is, tell somebody where you are. If you're solo hiking, it's so important. And I realize part of solo hiking is being out in the woods, being alone, being undisturbed. But it takes just a few seconds to send a text to somebody that you trust, a family member, a spouse, and say, hey, here's where I'm at. And a lot of places that are even remote, you're able to send out a text that'll let people know this is where I'm at. Again, it becomes invaluable if you get in a situation where you're lost or you're hurt, where they can pinpoint your location very quickly. Some individuals will take a wilderness survival course. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't think that you have to do it in order to solo hike, but I think as much information or knowledge as you can gain and add to that some experience will help you gain confidence as you solo hike. I would not recommend solo hiking 50 miles as your first attempt. Try doing something local, something that's 4 miles, 6 miles. And these kind of hikes will help to build your confidence. I think my longest solo hike before I went on the Appalachian Trail was about 12 or 13 miles. And that just gave me good confidence knowing I can do a stretch of trail and go and come back safely and effectively. And that builds your confidence when you're planning larger hikes. Another thing that I think is super important is your food and water. You have to have nourishment and you have to have basic minerals in your body in order to be able to solo hike effectively. There were several times when I was section hiking, I could feel myself getting fatigued and I could feel myself getting a little confused when it came to making decisions where the trail is at. And some of that comes down to nutrition and different nutrients that your body needs. Something like Propel or Gatorade or Powerade has valuable minerals in it that will keep you sharp mentally and that will keep you from getting fatigued. Also, good nutrition when you're out solo hiking. I never solo hike, no matter how short the hike is. It may be a 3 or 4 mile hike. I never solo hike without water and some snacks, power bars, whatever it is. These things will help you keep sharp mentally and keep well energized physically so that you can be successful when you solo hike. I always carry a whistle when I solo hike. You can hear a whistle a lot farther than you can hear somebody shouting. You can use the whistle to give different signals, and you can study up on that, but I always carry a whistle, one that does not have any kind of a ball in it so it doesn't get frozen, but just a good safety precaution. If you hear people shouting for you, if you're tired, a whistle is a lot easier than shouting. I always carry a headlamp. You don't have to have a super fancy one. I bought this one at my local hardware for about $10. I use this very effectively on trail for some night hiking. Sometimes things don't go as quickly as you thought, and it gets dark quick in the woods. So this one has a couple different options. This one enables you to do red light. It also has 2 levels on the white light, and I always carry extra batteries for it. You always want to make sure you have fresh batteries when you go out on a solo hike. That way you know that you have 10 or 12 hours of light if needed. If you get in a pinch, you can use your headlamp to make sure that you don't get lost in the woods. Make sure you have some warm gear. Even in the summer where I live, I throw in a puffy jacket because in the evening when you're tired or if you get wet, maybe you need to take off a wet shirt or a wet sweatshirt and put that puffy jacket on. It'll keep you nice and comfortable, it'll keep you warm, and it'll keep you from getting hypothermic. Sometimes you know that it's going to be a while before someone comes to get you, and having a nice warm jacket is just a matter of a little comfort until you get hauled out of the woods. Thank you so much for watching this video. I think these tips can help you build confidence as you solo hike. As I want to remind you, you don't have to solo hike if you don't feel confident enough to do it. But if you think you might give it a try, start with some short solo hikes and then work up from there. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll talk next time about how to hike successfully.